Welcome everybody to our SBDC Pivot Panels. I'm Leanne Presley, your host, and our program is really about showcasing business owners in Chaffee, Park, and Lake County who have done something a little innovative, something to pivot their business during this COVID phase. You know, right now, April 30th, we're recording. We're kind of in phase 2, moving into phase 3, where businesses are going to start to reopen. And so a lot of the folks you're going to learn from on the Pivot Panels are right in that stage of continuing to pivot their business. So I'm excited today. My guest is Sarah Gartzman. She and her husband, Rob, are the owners of several businesses in Salida, Colorado. Sweetie's Bakery, which is still, well, sandwich shop, I guess is what she calls it. And the Biker and the Baker, which is temporarily closed right now. So we're going to chat with Sarah about her businesses. Welcome, Sarah, to our Pivot Panels.
Thanks, Leanne. Thanks for thinking about me. I feel so honored. I'm excited.
Well, Sarah, you do such a great job with your social media marketing, and just all of your businesses seem to be naturally really innovative, and you're always doing something new and different and exciting. So let's kind of start with when you first learned about the COVID closures. That was probably your first pivot of, okay, we've got to change things. So walk me through what happened with that first pivot.
So for, a while, I think I didn't really believe that it was going to happen. I was kind of in denial that all of the closures were actually going to happen to us. And I was working at the Biker and the Baker in the kitchen on the Saturday night before everything started to close down and those rumors started to actually become true. And I looked at one of my employees and I said, oh my God, like if we close, we'll be homeless, and how will we pay our employees, and how will we pay you, and how will we pay our rent? Like it all just hit me at one time. And then I went from like being in complete denial about it actually affecting us to like, I was like devastated. But our goal has always been to give. And that is kind of our first and foremost priority of our businesses is giving and serving and creating a community and serving comfort food. And so when we started to think about what can we do to actually continue to be able to give and to service and to create, we found that we needed to think about families that are stuck at home together. We needed to think about comfort foods that people crave through this time. We need to think about hours that they're going to want to eat, and how many people we're serving in those meals. So whether that's serving lots and lots of sandwiches and bringing them to the hospital and delivering them, which is a huge pivot that we started with. We started with curbside delivery, and then we started with actual delivery. But whether that's like in large quantities to large groups of people that are working, or a mom at home, like a single mom, especially at home with multiple kids it's so hard to leave your house just to go grocery shopping, how can we serve them and how can we give to them without feeling like you're excluded from enjoying at least part of your life right now? I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, for sure. So it sounds like you were really cognizant and very intentional about the communities that you were trying to serve. I think there's other businesses out there that are struggling with that. So I want to sort of unpack that just a little bit. How did you and Rob decide, or was it something intuitive and natural to you, on what those communities were going to be? How did you come up with the idea of it had to be the single mom or the healthcare workers at the hospital, or did you do an exercise? Does it just come to you? Like, help me kind of figure that out so that another business owner listening can be like, oh, I can figure that out too.
Well, I think Rob and I are lucky in the fact that we both work at both of our businesses. So we know our demographic and our customers very personally. And we know the kinds of people that gravitate towards our businesses are people who have families, people who are working, people who need like a grab and go lunch. And then we started to think about how we can help them. Mm-hmm. And that was what helped us. And I think it probably came to us more intuitively because we are just very in tune with our customers and what their needs are. We are lucky that we are there and we talk to them every day and communicate with them, and not just in person, but on Instagram and on Facebook, through emails. We're always, we have multiple platforms and different ways for people to get in touch with us. And I think that we have such a good connection with them already. If we asked what they wanted, it probably would have been something similar, but we were just lucky that we have very good communication with them.
Yeah. So I've always observed that about your business. I'm in marketing. I have a marketing agency. So I feel like I've always got my finger on the pulse of what businesses are doing well in that space. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I think during this phase 2 and phase 3 of COVID, one of the things I'm telling clients is you've got to be in touch with your customers. You've got to have that feedback loop. And one of the best places to do that is on social. And I think, just to your point, when you have a question for your audience or you need to know what they want, you just get on Facebook or Instagram and, hey, tell me what you want to hear, or, hey, I'm thinking about this. And you get that instant feedback, right?
And I think people are really honest on those platforms because they don't have to do anything. They are just, and especially during this time when that's all they're doing is on social platforms. They're sitting at home on their computers, on their phones. That it's so easy to get in touch with them now. And for me, I've never been great at web design or, getting in touch through a website. I've always been more, I think, communicative through Instagram and Facebook. And it definitely has taught me that having a website that is cohesive with your social platforms needs to happen too. And we implemented ordering online. We implemented and sending pastries and gift baskets. But that was hard for me to kind of go from why can't people just send me a DM and I'll send them their address and I'll send them some cookies, but it has to be streamlined. And so updating our website, putting our complete menu, our accurate menu online was a big one. That was the first thing that we implemented so that the social would, it would be full circle.
Right. Really. Absolutely. That's so important. So I want to know about the particulars of give me a day in the life of your social posting life. Because so many people say to me, gosh, I love what Sarah Gartzman's doing, but I could never do what she's doing because I don't even know how she does it. I don't know how she has the time. I don't know when she does it. So I think this could be something you could share with people.
Okay.
Do you have your phone in your pocket? Do you check it every couple hours? Do you wait till the evening? How do you stay so absolutely to the minute in touch with your customers on social?
For me, something just personally, one of my pet peeves is seeing things on social that are not current. Because it's so even by the minute things become irrelevant. So for me, yes, I unfortunately keep my phone with me at all times. It is glued to me, and not just because I have children and I'm at work and I might get a phone call, someone might be sick. I mean, that's also helpful for that part of my life too, but I just always feel like I never make a plan really. And I want to document what's real and what comes up, because to me, that's what creates a connection with our customers. That's what resonates with them, that I'm not planning it and that this is just our real life. And so that's why I always have my phone with me. So if I'm feeling like I'm at Sweetie's at 3 a.m. and a good song comes on and that's a perfect time to have a dance party, I am ready for that. And then I don't wait to post it. I don't wait to post anything because I probably will talk myself out of it at that point. But a big part of it is just sharing what time it is, what's going on, what else is going on. Well, the bread is rising, or when I'm using the starters to make the sourdough bread and seeing, the light outside at the same time, you can see that it's dark. You can see that the windows are steamy. I think all those things capturing the actual raw footage is what I think that's part of the reason that people gravitate to us so much. And so, yeah, I always, and people do seem to, I think I've noticed that they have rules, like I can't post more than one time a day, or I have to post in the mornings, or I have to post in the evening, and that's when my engagement is higher. And you know what, for me, I don't look at any of that, and I really don't care. If it's something that's valuable and resonates with someone, it doesn't matter the time of day. It just matters like kind of being vulnerable and sharing that part of your life, no matter when it is. And your customers will respect that for sure. So some days I'll post one thing, some days I'll post two things, some days I'll post nothing for 4 days. And that's okay, because that's part of real life. We all have lulls. We all have like high points that we want to share all the things, and just being able to go with it and not overthink it so much and just share it as it comes, I think is invaluable to our marketing for sure.
Awesome. All right, we got a behind the scenes peek at how you're managing social. I love it. So another thing I noticed during the early stages of COVID was that you and Rob came out with a whole barbecue offering, which for most folks who might not know, that wasn't part of your repertoire. And all of a sudden you're doing barbecue chicken and barbecue ribs, and you're doing delivery. And to me, it felt like a big pivot, which for you, it might not have been that much of a departure from what you were doing. But I imagine it involved some different operations, some different food ordering. You probably had to run some different numbers. Tell me about that pivot.
Yeah, so I think I had all these ideas, like I can make classic pastries again. And Rob and I are kind of just like talking out loud while our kids are screaming at home. Like, I can make croissant, I can make Danish, I can make fancy breads. And he was like, how about I just turn on the smoker and bring it to Sweetie's and we'll make barbecue. And I was like, well, that'll make more money than, a $5 croissant. And then we started thinking about it. This is just kind of how we are. We don't think about things too much. We like throw all of our cards on the table, and then usually something sticks or it feels right to both of us. And then we move forward with that. And we don't we don't weigh our options. I think with this, we were a little hesitant because the food cost was so high on an initial order to order a ton of meat like this. And so we were like, can we spend $1,000 on all this food and then be able to have an ROI from that? This is never something that we've done. So we were very unsure, and this was a huge risk. But I think even though it was outside of like our menu offerings, it stuck to like the giving and the comfort food and the bringing something that people enjoy for lunch, turning it more into a dinner option. And then it didn't feel so different.
Right.
And then delivering it and offering, it was right around the time that they changed the law so that you could offer wine and beer to go. So that seemed like a natural addition, and offering like dessert add-ons. And so that was really successful. And honestly, if we hadn't have done that, it really did carry us through that time. For sure. Yeah. We've gotten a number of emails and requests for us to do it again. And it gives me anxiety because it was a lot of work. And, it's already a lot of work to run a business. And then you add this whole different component that you've never done before. It's a lot of extra work and anxiety. And smoking something's kind of like baking. Like, you never know how it's going to turn out until it's done. It's not like you can really taste it along the way or fix it once it's done. So we were just hoping I was just hoping that Rob's skills were good enough that would work. And they definitely were. He created some amazing food, and it was perfect.
Yeah. So earlier you just said, sometimes you just forge ahead, don't really do a lot of planning. And I wonder if sometimes, or in this case, it resulted in some challenges or some hurdles that you weren't expecting that you had to overcome. Can you share some of those with us? And how did you manage to move through the challenges?
So the biggest challenge for us has been managing our staff. How do we keep them happy? How do we keep them employed? How do we keep them paid? how do we keep them safe? How do we make sure that they feel like they're being taken care of? And I think honestly, I just overthought the fact that like all of our employees would want to be essential workers through this time. And a lot of them decided that they did not want to be an essential worker. They did not want to come to work. Which was something that had never crossed my mind, that you get that choice, because I don't really feel like I have that choice. And maybe that's bad that I feel that way, but yeah, that was something that I was shocked by. We lost about half of our staff due to the stay-at-home order, and we were pretty much running on the smallest staff we'd ever run on. We had no bakers. The bakers were the first ones to want to stay home, which I thought was interesting because they pretty much work alone. But they decided that they thought that they were safer at home. So I had to kind of step in to do that. And I mean, it's probably better that I didn't think about it too much. And I was just like, okay, this is what I have to do. I'm back to working 18-hour days again with no sleep, and then have to figure out how to homeschool my kids when I get home. But we dealt with it, and honestly, it's probably better that way that they decided not to come to work, because we would have had to let people go in that case. And this did save us from paying them unemployment, since it was their choice not to come to work. They were never let go or laid off. So we hope that they'll come back. That was the biggest challenge for us, that I'm not a planner anyways, but I had not planned on that at all.
Right. Yeah. And I'm sure that was a shock when there's so much unemployment. You just make the assumption that people want a job.
I really did. I had just decided, like, wow, these people are so lucky. No one's getting laid off here. You know, we're going to need them, and we're going to be able to pay them. And then to find out on their own will that they don't want to be a part of that was really hard for me, especially when I'm seeing people struggling on, losing their jobs. And I'm thinking, like, how could you not want to work? That was just, I think, personally hard for me more than anything. So professionally, I was, I put on my chef's coat hat and was like, okay, I'm just going to do it for everybody, because that's my only choice right now. But personally, I think I was just devastated. And sometimes it's hard in a business when you're personally sad, but your boss self is like, you don't have time to be sad. You can't really work through that. You just have to suck it up and do your job, and everybody else's.
Yes, someone once told me, heavy wears the crown when you own your own business. So Sarah, you are moving into the next phase here. Our county has the Chaffee County has just released new guidelines and rules for lifting the shelter in place that we've been under since early March. And I wonder what you're thinking about now in terms of the next pivots. What's on the horizon for you?
Let's see. So I think initially we were thinking, when this whole order was lifted, that we would go ahead and be able to reopen the biker and the baker again. But because there are still so many restrictions, having to kind of hold off on reopening is the next pivot, and waiting until we can actually run our business in the way that we feel comfortable doing it, and in a lucrative way. It's kind of a lost cause for us to open a bar that's based on an experience if we can only have a certain number of people in here. It doesn't make very much money, and we can't pay our staff to be here if they're only going to be servicing 2 or 3 customers. So I think the not doing anything is a very hard pivot for me, because I'm always trying to do more and fix things. And So yeah, that's been a big challenge that I'm trying to work through in my head. And then, you know, with our employees at Sweeties, I think we're just trying to be very diligent about following the guidelines from the county. We've all been COVID trained or now through our food distributor, like on safe measures now. So everybody wearing masks and gloves and changing them very frequently and disposing of things, having less things on counters and less self-serve things than we did before. We still can't allow people to sit in our dining room and eat. So I think we're kind of in this position where we're having to police customers a little bit, which is not, again, not something that we ever really wanted to do, but that they have to stand 6 feet away. They have to social distance. They cannot eat there. And it's hard for us to tell those people that don't want to hear that. So I think our next pivot is just trying to like stay in line, doing everything that we've been continuing to do, and then be really diligent with all of our employees about following all the guidelines now.
Right. And mid-May, is that when restaurants will change again?
I think so. That's what I've heard, but I'm not completely sure. And I think that is subject to change again. So I almost don't want to make a plan until I hear that it's official. So hopefully mid-May, you know, we can have both of our businesses up and running again.
Mm-hmm. And so for right now, you're offering the full line of baked goods that you've always had, and that is for phone-in orders. And then your lunch also, full line of sandwiches and offerings that you've always had. You call in and
people can come in and order as well. They just can't really stay inside and wait for their order or eat it there. So we do have a bunch of walk-in people that'll order a sandwich, wait outside, and then take it to go, which is probably honestly the fastest option at this point because it's so empty in here.
And you're doing curbside pickup as well as delivery, right?
Yep.
And then the barbecue is on hold right now.
The barbecue is on hold. I think if we feel like we need to reinvest in those ingredients again, we will, and we'll bring it back. But we're not quite there yet. So stand by for that news if we do it again.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Sarah Gartzman, thank you so much for your time today. It was super exciting to get you one-on-one and pick your brain and pull back the curtain, see behind the scenes of what you do so successfully every day. So thank you so much to you and to Rob from Sweeties Sandwich Shop. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Leanne.